Welcome to another edition of Knickerbocker Banter. I'm your host, Harris Wishard. With me today, another very special guest, the creator of Knicks Twitter Day, the founder of the I'mPossible brand, as you see on his sweatshirt, Shaun Geddes. Thank you so much for joining the program.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm truly honored. You've been doing amazing things. I'm following in the footsteps of some heavy hitting legends. So I'm honored to be in the esteemed company.
Absolutely, man. And let's get into, you know, who you are as a person. And what really struck me when I had met you on, Nick's Twitter Day was, your energy and what you really wanted to bring to that, event. How did it come about, and really what motivated you to want to do that?
Um, the story of how it came about is a little weird now.
Hmm.
But what motivated me to want to do it, I've just always been really big on one, I love basketball. I love basketball. I love the Knicks.
Hmm.
I love playing basketball. I love, being good at things. I love winning. So I really want. I've been telling people for years they can't guard me, and I wanted to make sure that like
Hmm.
it was time for people to really see that. But no, it was really dope to also be able to bring the entire community together. I think that Twitter is cool, and I love Twitter, and I love what it's provided me. I love the relationships that I made off of it, but I think the greatest part of Twitter is that it allows us to actually meet people, and so I want us to be able to have these experiences in real life. Some of my favorite times are, at the bar after the games, and when we get to cross paths and see. So it's just like bring everybody together for one thing at one time, and also being able to show people they couldn't guard me was just super phenomenal, and it was a great opportunity. And I didn't even see it becoming what it did. I think it was surreal to experience. But just the thought behind it was, I want to show everybody they can't guard me, and I want to provide something that everybody can come together for.
Well, you backed it up. I joked with you that Babe Ruth called his shot, and then I saw on Twitter that you were saying that you were going to dunk on somebody. Now, listen, we've both been around basketball for a long time. I've seen many people say that they were going to dunk on somebody, and then nothing happened. And within maybe the first or second possession of your first game, you took the roof off the place. And I honestly didn't know how to react. We know that the reactions were crazy, and I believe it's still your profile picture. So that's something that, as we talk about the great impact it made, and we'll get into that and how that inspired me going forward into this season. But you will always have what, who knows what's going to happen in the future. But as of right now, of course, the highlight of that day.
Yeah, I feel like that right there was literally a top five moment of my life.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a top because Nick's Twitter Day in itself was like a top moment of my life. Like all of it coming together, everybody being out there, the great times, and people were so like kind and nice to me, like all day, and then afterward, like Ben Stiller coming out, like that was amazing. Kaz and Christian doing the mic. I'm gonna stop naming people because I hate when I start naming people, and then I'm gonna leave people out. But everybody came together to make the day what it was just phenomenal and surreal. And so MSG being out there was incredible. So to be able to have all that going on, and then in that moment, it's like I think so. The first play of the game, I got the tip off, and I immediately swung it to Jay Niggy for a three. So then they came down. So that was that was my first dribble. Like my first time putting the ball on the floor, like our first actual possession, and being able to, and it happened on a play that I drew up, like, but very naturally. Like I drew up that double drag with the weak side action. And we were supposed to be running that all day. And we kind of just like, I think that moment kind of got us away from what we intended to do. And then the second game, they went zone. I'm talking way too much basketball for next today. But
No,
in the
I
second,
do this all day. You know that.
in the second game, they went zone against the Strickland.
Mm.
They went zone. After they saw what happened in the first game. So that action we had wasn't applicable to zone. I think because of that, we didn't go back to it in the last game. But yeah, first play, it just naturally came together. I turned the corner, and all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, like there's a lane. And I was just gonna go dunk it, which already was cool. But then, I want to shout out, my guy Doug. You feel me? I beat Doug off the dribble. It's a quick first step. People are blaming Doug. I have a quick first step, but I think people underestimated
Mm.
that. So it was a quick first step. But then I really had to thank Trippy, who came along because I was already up there. I don't know why he jumped,
I
honestly.
got to give him credit for at least challenging the play, though, because I know a lot of people hate on him. And I honestly, listen, it's not the best feeling to get flushed on. I think it's only happened to me once in my life, but The aftermath obviously wasn't pretty.
But no, and like I give him credit too because it's courageous. It's more courageous than me. If somebody who can dunk goes up and they're already in the air, me, I'm 6'5". I'm not. You got it, bro. I'm not jumping. So the fact that he made the rotation and still jumped, but yeah, just like everybody's reaction after the game stopping, like being in that moment felt so surreal. It was like the culmination of the day coming together. And unfortunately, I didn't win the championship. That was supposed to be the culmination of the day coming together. But being in that moment after the dunk, and it's like, okay, I'm celebrating. Everybody's going nuts. The game stops. It's like the gym, like it's loud. It's like loud in here, like we're at an actual game. And so yeah, just that literally top five moment in my life, man. Can't. Sometimes I like am envious of like my past self for experiencing it.
Well, listen, you deserve that. And obviously, we'll get into your relationship with Ben in a second because I think it's fascinating. I heard the full story on the putback with Ian Begley, and I thought it was awesome. And it obviously speaks volumes to both of you guys. But the feeling I had after the day, and what I continuously tried to tell you was there's always going to be people, especially on social media, that are going to say, Shaun tried to do this. You guys are analyzing someone putting together a community event. That's what you're doing. And that was what took me back. I couldn't understand it because I just looked at it from a strictly, this is a really positive thing. Look at all the people that are enjoying themselves. Look at the relationships that have come out of this. And I told you, it definitely inspired me to almost get back to the drawing board and say, hey, what events could I do with my podcast? How could I be better? Still talking to people from that day. Now I could put the faces to people that, as we now talk, it was great, honestly, for the community. And there will always be people that will find the negative in anything. There's always going to be those people no matter what. So for you to do that, like I said, kudos. And you have to be, it's hard to ignore a lot of that other nonsense that goes on. But to me, it was a home run, no question. And I am really looking forward to the next one.
I appreciate that, man. That means a lot. And yeah, I'm pretty used to being able to see the negative for what it is and just kind of I don't I'm way more focused on the positive all the time. Like I love holds way more weight than hate. So I'm just always focused on the positive, and that's why I have so much appreciation, and I get upset with myself sometimes because I feel like I don't properly express it. Like I feel like I don't make people feel that. Just I feel like I'm not as present with my phone and things like that. And so that's another reason I really like the event, just to be able to see people and speak to people and like connect with people for real. Like like I'm very good at in-person connection. I am not so good at that over the phone. I spend a lot of time in my head, unfortunately. So to be able to come out of my head and like be around people, and I felt so much love that day. And I'm so grateful to anybody who gave even an ounce of it, whether it was people who were there, whether it's people who weren't able to make it but saw clips and said nice things, like whatever it may be. I'm super thankful, like more than I can express.
And you're excited about doing it after a championship this season.
Oh, after the parade is gonna hit like crack, and Jalen has given his word that he will be there on multiple occasions. It's on wax.
Yeah, I hope he's being real about that. I mean, he said it, and by the way, and now this is what I want to lead into Stiller, because he's mentioned you on the roommates pod before, because when Jalen said, you're the king of Nick's Twitter, and then he'll give you your props, right? So and then you got recognized again on the roommates pod when Hart and Brunson are talking about Nick's Twitter day itself and the dunk and all that. But leading back to the original point, did you ever see yourself as being the reason why you got an A-list celebrity to Nick's Twitter day?
No, and not at all. And that's the beauty of life.
Mm.
And I feel like that's what I try to. And I don't feel like I run my brand I'mPossible well enough at all. Never have.
Mm.
Getting better. We'll get better. But I think the main part of running it is just embodying it. And I feel like literally anything is possible. Like I've seen myself very highly. I've always thought that I was. My mom never let me believe I wasn't special. My dad either. Like I was raised to believe I was special. And so, I've always felt like I was special, but I feel like, I wanted to do music. I wanted to act, like all kind of different things. I wanted to be in the NBA. I didn't think that me being a Knicks fan would lead me to places, like that. Just, you can't even make up the stuff like you say, honestly, Ben Stiller mentions me a lot.
Yeah.
Like more than he has to, more like by far. And it's something I'm so appreciative of because it's not performative. He doesn't even tell me sometimes. Like somebody will text me and be like, "Yo, I listening to Bart and Han, and Ben Stiller just going off about you," and I'm like, he didn't even tell me that. I didn't like, like he's just doing it to do it. Like, and I think that's so. But it's like a genuine like to be able to establish a genuine connection like that with someone, like him. And I think really as much as I appreciate it, and it's a blessing from God, and it's an amazing example of everything that's possible. I also think it's an amazing example of what a great guy Ben Stiller truly is. Like he's incredible. He's incredible. I've met other people that like knew him on like even like I saw one time I was working on a movie set as a PA. And
Mhm.
one of the and it was a small movie set, it wasn't anything major, but one of the actors on the movie said he had met Ben Stiller before, and that it was the day I was actually going to meet him for the premiere. And so when I was leaving for that, he was telling me his story, and he was like, "Yeah, I met him, and he was just so kind, and he was like, yo, I want to whatever I can help you with, I'm gonna help you." And then like he told me like this project he was trying to get, and like Ben helped him, and I'm like, yeah, like that's who he is, and like he leaves that kind of trail behind. It's inspiring. Like I want to be that kind of person where you know, two people who are not like, at the time I hadn't even met Ben yet, so just like two people who aren't like a big focus in my life or anything, just people who I kind of met in passing almost, both have these wonderful stories about me just because of who I am to everybody I meet. I think that's it. That's it. He's super inspiring just as like he's super inspiring for his work and his greatness, but he's just super inspiring as a human being, truly.
And definitely, you hit on a big one that I talk about a lot from having looked up to or continue to look up to guys like Han Breen and other people that I've been able to talk to. The humility, the humility of no matter what you accomplish, this is how I'm going to carry myself. What is everybody else's excuse, right? If these are guys that have reached this level of success and treat people this way, what is your reason for not doing it? And I'm big on that. Every time, we have discussions and we talk about the basketball world, we talk about, goals and things like that. None of that supersedes character. And it can't, and it never will. I don't care about the money truly. I really do care about, what people are saying. And listen, some people are going to say negative things no matter what, as we touched on, but I
Mm-hmm.
really do care about what the reputation is, if it's warranted, right? If it's people that are actually telling the truth and living by that moral code. So to see him do that and others do it, and you obviously do it, those are the people I want to be around going forward. And I've been very adamant about that as well.
No, and I'm glad, because we hadn't interacted before. Like, I'm thankful to next Twitter Day for things like this. Like, like that's how we met each other.
Yep.
And so it's like, yes, you're a great Knicks fan. Yes, you know about basketball, and yes, you can hoop. I'm looking forward to getting back to New York and hooping with you. Like, yeah, to those of you guys who don't know, you're speaking to a sharpshooter. Like, this is but not just a sharpshooter. Like the type of sharpshooter that can use the leverage he gains off his jumper to get to the basket. Like, like it's you're a great person to hoop with, whether I'm playing with or against you. I love that.
I lose a
But
But yeah, I appreciate.
huh?
I gotta say, lose a few pounds, but I appreciate the kind words, and you're inspiring me to get back in real shape when you talk like that, because my competitive juices get flowing when we're talking hoops like that.
Hey, when I get back up there, bro, I'm trying to hoop a lot. So let's do it. Because yeah, I need to. I'm not losing the championship next year. Like I'm it's not happening. But yeah, like so, but it's just dope to meet you, the person. Like like you're a great person, and we connect on the personal level, and I really appreciate that. And I feel like that provided that, and we like you said, when you just are around people who are aligned with it, how you feel and how you move and what you see, those are good places to align yourself. And so like I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me on here. I appreciate our relationship. I appreciate being able to speak to you. Like it goes a long way, truly.
Well, you know what I first said to Doug when I connected with him with his music, because I said, "Wow, this is really cool. I love the idea. He's doing a great thing." I reached out to him to be on the podcast, right? And right away, I could tell, like, all right, this guy seems like a really good guy, obviously just through text and stuff. And then he came on the pod, and then I met him for game 2 of the Boston series. What a great game to meet somebody, right? The great comeback. But then I shortly realized, right, this is a really good person. And this goes along with what we've been talking about. I don't care what your stature is. If you're not going to treat somebody well and you're not going to be respectful, I'm not just going to hang around for a benefit. That's not what I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking to do. I don't care. Like, I don't care if you even played in the NBA. It does not matter. And that's, meeting guys like you and Benji and Doug and all these other great diehard fans, but just as good people has by far and away been the best part of all this. I can't wait to go into my live on Wednesday and connect, even if it's 10 people, 12 people. The number doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to me. It's people that care about what I'm saying and they're awesome. And they're in the chat and they're contributing. So what a great part of this that's been to be connected, as you just said.
Yeah, bro. It's a surreal feeling, and it's never like, even I'm big on like not taking things for granted, like even breathing.
Mhm.
But like that's something like you said, like to go in there, like no matter. So I do this thing called playback. We watch the games on playback. It's like live. Shout out to playback, playback.tv/ I hate Shaun. I'm gonna change the name. I've been saying that for a long time, but I'm not the only one who does it. So like I just don't feel like it should be named I hate Shaun. But we go in there, we watch the games. I stopped promoting it. Like at first, I was trying to like, because you can get paid on playback as a creator, but there's like a system and all kind of things. So that was my goal when I started. And then I got to the point where I stopped promoting it because it's hard to move people to another to another app, to a new thing. Like if people are not familiar with things that they kind of don't sound, whatever. I just that wasn't what it was about for me anymore.
Mm.
I just loved that there was, there's some nights there's 12 of us, some nights there's 25 of us during the playoffs. Some nights there were like 30 something, however many of us there are. We're in here watching a game together, like 82 games a year, essentially. These people pull up here and we watch the game together. Like that community, we'll be at the game. Like I'll be at the game and jump in. Bro will be at the game and jump on screen. The homie SG was at a preseason game the other day in the comments, like, yo, I can't hear you guys, but she's talking to us in the chat. I'm like, you're at the game. Like, like that's so cool. And then, to be able to do post game and people whether it's a bad or a good game, like people want to know what I have to say. That's so my friends used to mute me for talking about the Knicks too much. Like they used to mute me on social media, so because I live in South Florida, nobody cared. So it's like to have a community of people that care what I have to say, and some of those people, whether it's on playback or whether it's on, the post game shows, some of them have been there since I didn't have locks. Like I had a high top fade, so it's just like I was on Periscope like from my phone, and that, so it's just like they've seen like all the different phases of me, and they're there for all the games. It's just such a wild experience. So I understand fully how you're saying you can't wait till Wednesday to go in your chat, and it's like no matter whether, like you said, whether it's 10 people, whether it's 20 people, whether it's 100, whether it's a great night and it's mad people in here, like some nights I do the post game show and there's like a few views, and some nights Ben Still will retweet it, and all of a sudden there's mad views, and like, but either way, I enjoy and appreciate both experiences. Like, and that's whether the people showed up 7 years ago or not 7 years. Damn, this is year 7. That's so crazy. I think this is.
Started 2018.
Oh my goodness,
Well, that's how you know
that's so
how
crazy.
legitimate you are. If you're talking about this, what is it? I think they won 17 games that season before the 2019 draft, or they were the third pick.
I got here. No, so my first year was 2019, but I think this is my seventh season though.
I know that makes sense.
'Cause-
Right. The
yeah,
math adds up there. Yeah. I know you're a big RJ guy. So it must have been his rookie year then, right?
that was actually, and that's why I'm always going to be a big RJ guy, no matter where RJ goes. And I'm gonna, I'm not gonna apologize, but I'm letting people know from now, like I'm gonna be talk because sometimes I like tweet about something else, and people are like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Don't I'm like, "Yo, this is my account. Like I can do what I want to do, bro. I love basketball. I'm sorry, like ignore it. Like this is Knicks. I'm like, well, bro, like I also tweet about The Office and Severance. Like, I can. It's my account.
Well,
But I'm gonna love RJ wherever he plays because that's how I ended up here. So we got the third pick. We didn't win well, but we got the third pick in the lottery. And when we got the third pick in the lottery, I was like, okay, everyone knew Zion was one, everyone knew Ja was two. And so it was like, okay, RJ's gonna be number three. But RJ was like the number one prospect in the country coming into college that year. So it was like, this is my first time with us getting like a blue chip prospect. The highest pick we had before that was number 4, and it was Kristaps. And I was mad at that pick when we first made it because I wanted a point guard and I didn't know who Kristaps was. So, this is somebody who I've known for years who's gonna be a Knick. I was like, yo, like I'm fully invested. Like I want to be as close as I can to the team. I was, I always I'm always have respect for Jonathan Macri because I DM'd him and because my plan was, okay, I'm gonna go out to summer league in Vegas and I'm gonna try to just shake some hands and try to figure out how I can get into the content world. I
yeah.
ended up not being able to make it to summer league, but when I thought I was going, I DM'd him like, hey, are you gonna be out there? I'm trying to get into this, and he was like, hey, just let me know. I can like when we can meet up out there and like I can help you however I can. And I never made it, but I always appreciate that because I just randomly DM'd him. So it's just like I would appreciate that he received me well in that. So shout out to him forever for that, honestly. Um, but what was I saying?
You were
Oh, yes.
RJ.
Yeah, so I wanted to get more invested, and then after that, I ended up on the Knicks wall. So shout out to Knicks wall, shout out to Kyle Maggio. And that was like because I reached out to them, I followed Kyle for a while, and I was like, we're pretty similar. So let me see. So I reached out to him, and he was like, yeah, you're in. And so it was like I went to New York. My first trip to New York as an adult was to be at RJ's first home game because I felt like I had to be at the Garden for RJ's first home game. That was my first trip to the Garden as an adult. Like all of that, I hadn't been to the Garden since I was like 5 years old back when I lived in New York. Before that time, and so like it just made me way more like it reinvigorated. Not that I was never not a fan,
Yeah.
but it made me want to be more than a fan. Like it made me want to be a part of it. And so I'm always gonna have that appreciation for RJ.
Well, I will say this because I don't want to sound like I'm the police of my chat. So if my chat is listening to me right now, we have a great team. So I do sometimes get a little annoyed when people are harping on past trades or past players. However, I do understand the emotional attachment to certain guys. It is hard not to let that go, but I always do say it's a little bit easier to do it when your team, as we now are going to segue into the Knicks, because we do have to talk about this season, as much as I love listening to your story, are on the verge of potentially winning a championship. I mean, that's the hope, right? That is now the hope. And that's the expectation is that we're going to contend. What's your excitement level 1 to 10 at right now? 100?
Yeah, yeah. I was definitely going off the scale. So yeah, 100 is it. It's I can't. It's almost kind of surreal.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna feel 100% real until like we actually tip off on Wednesday. But it's almost surreal that like we're back here because and honestly probably a little too much, and that's something I'm kind of trying to reflect on a little bit. But like part of my like inner purpose is like attached to the Knicks. So it's like when the Knicks like when the Knicks are playing, I feel like oh my purpose is back, and I have to not attach so much of my purpose to Knicks basketball because that's probably not healthy, and I need to find more purpose in other places.
Yeah.
But like it's who I am. Like it's literally a part of who I am. And like you said, like we have an opportunity to win a championship, and that's a blessing. Like to be able to even come into the season feeling that way. And we're just there's so much that's new and exciting while also building on continuity. Like I'm sure we will go on. I'm so excited. I'm
Oh,
so
no,
excited.
we will. And you mentioned something interesting, and I think you'll appreciate this too when it comes to mental health in the Knicks, because I tweeted something out the other day that said, for better or worse, the Knicks are now in control of my mood for the next, whatever, 6, 8 months, hopefully. And yeah, part of me, I'm, trying to be funny, but part of me is being serious because especially since doing this for the last few years and more text messages, more comments, like your page and the vibe and everybody collectively, how they're feeling is going to be based off how the team is playing. So if I don't want to see all that negativity, and sometimes after bad losses, I won't even go on Twitter because I'll just get too frustrated by some of the things I see. I'm trying to stay level headed, but it's so hard because we're so emotionally invested into the outcome of these games.
I say it all the time, man. Fanhood is a disease, and I have it. It's like
That's
yeah, like it'll be controlling my mental health. It'll be like my emotions, my mood, my approach to things, the way I feel when I first open my eyes in the morning. It's all connected to this team, and the beauty of the situation that we're in is that like we're gonna have a great season. Like we're gonna have a great season. So even in some of those moments where it may feel, there's gonna be we're gonna have a bad loss. We are. That's basketball.
no,
Um,
not one over 82 games.
we're gonna unfortunately there's gonna be that one night. There's gonna
Hope,
be that one night.
hopefully not a lot of them, but yeah, there's going to be a few. You're right.
Yeah, that's just life. And so because of like where we are and who we are, like before, I feel like bad games used to hurt more
Mm.
because there were so many bad games. Like now bad games like we're what we're 34 and 12. 34 and 13 isn't going to make me lose my mind. Like flush this game, move on, don't let it become a bad losing streak. And like I feel like because so much of my mental health has been tied to the Knicks, I've had to do so much work on my mental health in regards to the Knicks. So I feel like I've learned, like, it's almost like a parallel experience, and I thank Tom Thibodeau for that a lot too. Like, I just watching all of the post game like interviews, and I remember that, especially the We Here season, where we're just like, one day at a time, like one day at a time, not too high, not too low. And I feel like I approach life like that a lot. And one thing I've been really focused on in life lately is gratitude.
Mm.
And so even in moments where, like, things may not be going the best, you have to make the best of it, and you can't let it, like, overtake you. You can't let it do too much so it's like, even if we do have a bad loss, I can't let that turn my emotion even toward the team sour, like, because that's there's ups and downs in life. And so I think navigating the ups and downs of the season have also helped me. And because, okay, and I'm sorry, I go on so many tangents, I apologize.
It's
But
why we have you on. This
so
is why.
I view it like, there's people who are super into astrology, right?
Mm.
And they'll be like, oh, I'm this sign, I don't get compatible with that sign, blah, blah, blah. I was never really too into it. I have more respect for it now than I did years ago. I'm a Leo. And I think what I took from what people would say is just, I was like, okay, how can I take what people say about Leos and use it to be like self-aware and tweak it? And so a big thing on Leos is center of attention. They always got a blah, 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 this and that. And so it's just like, okay, I try to make sure that I'm not ever always making everything about myself. Like, making sure that people feel valued, and, because it's like, so I find it weird when people are very into astrology, but don't use it to, like, work on themselves. And so it's like, okay, my mental health is attached to the Knicks. I may as well use the Knicks to work on myself. Like, and I remember one time we had a space, and, somebody said something about Julius Randle. And this is why Julius Randle wasn't playing well. And I wasn't feeling Julius Randle at the moment. But
Mm.
somebody was like, how many times are we gonna, like, how many times are you gonna do this, and blah blah blah? Like, when is he finally gonna get it? He's 28 years old. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm 28 years old. And I was like, I don't fully get it. So just like, I kind of have to have more grace for him, because, I'm 28. I am 28 years old. That doesn't mean I have everything figured out. And so, like, I don't know. I think there's just more parallels to things, and we got to take advantage of what we can. But yeah, I gratitude, and because the Jets suck. I'm a Jets fan. They're terrible. So it's like, I know what having a terrible team is like. I know, like, we're 0-7 right now. So when the Knicks start, it's going to be very hard for the Knicks to upset me, because of what my fanhood experience has been like for the past 2 months.
When you could look at it the other way too, is like, and as we continue to talk more about this upcoming season, we're here with Shaun Geddes, the creator of Nick's Twitter Day and I'mPossible brand, and appreciate you joining the program. But this New York sports scene right now is ugly. It's a car accident. You almost can't look away from what's happening. And now you have the Knicks coming in with all of this expectation. So as much as what you just said is true, we understand that a lot of sport fans and a lot of people that love this team especially are relying on this group to get us to the promised land, or at least as we expect to see deep postseason basketball. A lot of that is going to come down to number 11, Jalen Brunson, who, I saw your reaction the other day. I texted you about this, to his around the back pass that he made. And I know people are going to get crazy if he doesn't average a certain amount of points, because people do get OCD about those kind of things. Oh, he needs to be at 25, and if he's averaging 23, the sky's going to fall. But I'm with you. I think the assists have gone up every year since he's been here. That'll continue to happen. I don't know about double double necessarily. I don't think, if he averages 9, am I going to cry myself to sleep? No, but I definitely see him in this system, especially being a great general and definitely moving the rock a little bit more than he has.
Yeah, and one, I think Jalen Brunson is a basketball computer in a way. He processes the game very well. And just, he grew up, like, idolizing Steve Nash, or his favorite player was Steve Nash.
I love.
And so I even saw him do, like, he did the Steve Nash baseline thing the other game, and I was like, oh, let's go. Like, like, I
Like,
think that.
I did that in my
Hmm?
driveway as a kid. I said, no, I just love. Me too. I'm the same way with Nash. So I just love anybody that looks up to him.
Yeah, so it's just like, I feel like he scores because he's an incredible scorer. But so not that Jalen was already passing, like you said, this numbers are going up every year here. But I just think that his intention toward it and execution with it in the preseason just looked a little different. Like, there's almost a little bit more of an emphasis on it. And maybe that's the system, maybe it's whatever. Maybe he's, maybe it's a new role that he's in. Who I'm not in the locker room. I don't know. But from what I'm watching, I can just see it a little differently in terms of like some of the skip passes he's even made. Like it's okay, that wasn't necessarily happening before. Not that he was ball hugging, but it's just like he's being a little bit more intentional with passing, and he does it extremely well. And he looks even. It's like Jalen gets better at everything every year. So it's just like, oh, he got better at passing again. He got better at passing again, and he's utilizing it in a different way. I'm just really, really, really excited for what he's going to do and what it will empower everyone else to do around him.
Yeah.
Like, the other day he's running the lane and Trey Jameson's running the lane and he kind of just leaves it there for him. And I'm just, oh wait, no, that was Huck. Yeah, he just left it for Huck as he was running down. I'm like, yo, that's a beautiful pass. And a pass that if he doesn't make it, it won't even look crazy that he didn't make it. Like, it's just that we're getting into it. We could come down here and slow down and get into the set. But like he saw this, he read this, he dropped it here, and it's 2 quick points. And it's, it empowers Huck. And it makes the bigs are running the floor. Like that's everybody. Everybody's running the floor. And so Jalen's job kind of changes now. Everybody we're running, we're looking to, push the pace. It's his job now when people are running the floor to find people that are running the floor and get the ball advanced. So I'm excited, man. I can go on forever about Jalen Brunson Passer.
We're going to have to, we obviously have some time left here to talk more about the team, but you're going to have to come back on maybe after like a 5-game report or something. I mean, I like your analysis. I love your analysis. I respect the fact that you are a basketball lifer. You could always talk to someone and you fall into that category of, could this person wake up in the morning, talk basketball for 12 hours, go to bed and consider that a productive day? That's my standard of how much you love this game. That's the case for me. And I'm pretty confident saying that would be the case for you too.
For sure, especially Knicks basketball. It's like I love basketball, but like the Knicks, it's like an obsession. It's
Yeah.
probably not healthy, but it's like an obsession. So yeah, the two things together for sure.
Yeah. And listen, with Brunson, and I think you would agree with this too. Everybody understands that the Knicks are going to reach their ceiling, the less bailing out that he has to do with his offense, the better. And the amount of games that they're going to need him to score 40 to win. Listen, is it going to happen sometimes? Sure, he's that good of an offensive player. There are going to be games where Jalen Brunson's got it going, and everyone's going to be looking and be like, this is his night. You got to just, this our best chance is going to be, giving him the rock and letting him go. But in the past, we know how much we've relied on him and how we don't want that to be the case as much going forward. A lot of that will do with some of the guys that they brought in and minutes distribution. We can get into that too. But the mentality is, guys, I need some help. I'm going to move this thing a little bit. How can we set our offense up to be a little bit more productive than it's been in the past? Enter Mike Brown.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for it because the crazy thing is we don't even know what it is. Like we've seen some in the preseason, but Mike Brown kind of made it a point to say, hey, we're not even really running sets yet. We're just kind of, we're playing. They're playing and react, doing read and react, and so it's been, and that's why a part of why I'm so excited about Jalen's passing is because I remember right after we traded for OG, in those first couple of games, I think the first game was against Minnesota. And he didn't know where to be, so he was just cutting. Like he didn't know the offense yet, so he was like, "I'm just gonna spot up and cut." And it was making our offense so great. Jalen he was having like 15 assists, 17 assists. He was
Yeah, those were highest.
Yeah, he was going crazy. And I feel like as OG figured the offense out, not that he stopped cutting, but it just stopped being as apparent. Like the way that we were like, whoa, there's so much off ball movement. And so I feel like now that's being emphasized again. And like you said, that's how we get to our ceiling. And I think that it'll open everything up for everyone. And even utilizing and taking advantage of some of I feel like we didn't. This is going to be an annoying thing all season to be able to speak on what we're doing this year without sounding like I'm trying to slight what we were doing previously, because that's not my goal. I'm not here to do that. Although I did see the Tibbs visit the Celtics practice.
That was ridiculous, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't like that.
But you almost can't really get to the guy was axed, so we can't expect him to, I didn't expect him to go into Boston practice and start talking about strategy and stuff, but I also didn't expect him and Leon Rose to be getting like dinner anytime soon either.
And also, I'm not mad because that's what, like, even before we hired him, and he does that. He goes around to different teams. He's obsessed with basketball. So I'm not mad, but it was nasty it was a nasty video to watch. But yeah, so I'm not trying to fight, but I just feel like there's certain advantages that we didn't necessarily fully take advantage of. And so I'm looking forward to seeing us really taking advantage of the advantages we're able to create based on our roster, based on the way that we're able to, balance the floor, based on Cat being able to pull bigs out, all that. Like, I'm just really interested to see how all of that goes, and like, who was most empowered by it, who was able to utilize, like, everybody bringing the ball up the court. Mikal looks so much more aggressive.
Mm.
Like, that's clearly a point of emphasis for him. He's even said it. So I'm looking forward to all of that.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with, as much as it is adjustments, continuity, as Mike Breen famously talks about all the time, is the most underrated thing in basketball. So having another year of these guys together is, of course, going to help. But it is inevitable, especially if the team is, or I'm going to say get off to a rough start, but doesn't play well. You're going to hear more of it the last year. Even if they play well, you're going to hear, all right, this is what we're doing so much better. It's going to get tiring, but I think it'll just hopefully subside after like the first few weeks of the season. Then we can actually talk about it. But other things that we wanted, the Knicks and the actual games, maybe, and not all that other stuff. But you mentioned Bridges, and this, I'm not the first person saying this, but I think he could contend to be a third All-Star on this team because, well, listen, if that's the case, it's because the Knicks are winning basketball games. You can't have a third All-Star, all the teams that have had that, and not be a 1 or 2 seed and not winning a
Mm-hmm.
ton of basketball games. So, but it seems like the obvious choice because he'll be the benefactor of being a little bit looser, getting to his spots. And we know what he does in the mid range. But, the idea that I have to continue to hear about the 5 picks throughout his whole tenure, when that goes away completely, as when, the Bridges experiment will be going extremely well. I just, that's a narrative that I really wish I didn't have to hear so much.
It'll be over in June. Once you get a ring, nobody cares what you traded for. That's all. And the beauty of it, like, and I think part of what makes me so comfortable with this team is that I know that they know that. Like, and I kind of get some of that from them. Like, who cares what everybody's saying? Like, just win. Like, and I love that Mikal came into the season and he was like, people might think that I was upset with the fans for like what they were saying, but he was like, no, he was like, he's like, they want the things that I want. And he was like, so I want those things. So like, I think that's cool. And also, you know, and this is just my advice to anybody who's watching, who's on Nick's Twitter, because I used to get really bothered by like things that people would choose to talk about and all
Mhm.
that, and I would be like, oh, and I sometimes even on my, and not even sometimes, probably way too often on my own show, I would be like I'd be like arguing with things that people would say, and then I realized all I'm doing is platforming what they're saying. Like, if I just don't focus on that and I focus on what I want to talk about, I'll just be in a community of people who are talking about the things that I want to talk about, which is the Knicks and the basketball. All the other stuff, like, it's going to be there regardless, but the more that you acknowledge and engage it, the more it's going to bother you. And so it's like, if you see people having conversations you don't want to have, the mute button is your best friend. Like, I promise you, there's so many people. Sometimes people be like, oh, you guys need to stop talking about blah blah blah, and I don't even know what they're talking about. It's not on my timeline.
Mhm.
So like, be conscious of and decisive with what you expose yourself to.
Absolutely, man. And listen, you nailed it on terms of the energy. And like I said, that is why I've been drawn to your, presence in terms of your social media and just wanting to talk basketball. Like, and one thing I will say, and then I'll ask you a couple more questions about this season, but like there's a thing with people and their energies that it doesn't have to be personal. It doesn't have to be personal. Me and you could have two completely different viewpoints. You could say, this is how I think they should have played it in the fourth. This is who they should have subbed out. And I could say, Shaun, I completely disagree with that. I think they should have left Hart in the game. He was good. And we could disagree without it becoming that next level. Like, it's nothing that has to do with you individually. And that's where I think is where a lot of people lose me when I'm talking in the community. Guys, just because you think that someone shouldn't be getting 35 minutes a game doesn't mean that it has to take that turn. And
Mm-hmm.
that's always going to be the case out there. But I want to surround myself with people that are going to talk the game, disagree about the game, and do it in a respectful manner. And that to me is that should be a top priority. Some people will say, "Oh, you're soft, this, that. What are you talking about? This is part of it." And I'm like, "Well, for me, it isn't. I'm not on an NBA floor. We're not talking trash. We're not. Some of could make money and do this in the content creating world, but that shouldn't be what this is about." And I was very I spoke highly about that on Nick's Twitter day. Because I was telling you guys, like, see how nice this could be, guys? See how respectful it's because when someone's in your face, it's a little different when they're behind the keyboard. They feel protected.
Not even gonna get started on that. But yes, yes, it's very different when people are in person, and that's just what I like to focus on. Like because like I said, it doesn't have to be personal. So I think one of my favorite instances of that is like my homies Jeff Johnson, one of the most famous people I know. I'm honored to know him. Make sure like I am honored to know. I want that to be the headline. I'm honored to know Jeff Johnson. But yeah, Jeff Johnson, one of the most famous people I know. Shaun with a W. Like we vehemently disagree when it comes to fouling up by three. 100%. Like
Mhm.
I've belabored and explained my perspective and instances. I honestly think it cost us game one of the Pacers series, but whatever. And I'm always right, like in that regard. Like I'm right when it happens, and then when it came back to bite us in the ass. We shouldn't have fouled Neesmith. He caught the ball on the sideline
Mhm.
with our best defender on him in 14 seconds on the clock. Sorry, buddy. If you want to hit a three over the best defender on the team, you're gonna have to show me you're gonna do that. Because then we go down, we miss the free throw, they come down and hit a three, blah blah blah. So I don't believe in that. They believe in it wholeheartedly. They don't like they stand by that. We have had heated arguments about it, but it's always in good faith and good fun. Like it's never like, oh, F you, or like, oh, like, oh, you're a dump. Like
Yeah.
none of that has to happen. We can because at the end of the day, especially in we're rooting for the same team. We all have the same interest. We all desire the same outcome. There isn't even really much room for the personal. I don't even know how it gets there, honestly, because we're on the same team. So yeah, we can disagree about the game. We can disagree about the rotation. We can disagree about who should be starting. And honestly, also sometimes other people are going to be right. Sometimes what you think and it may not be right. And my thing is, and that's a big part of fanhood, and whether it's the content, whether it's just being fans, I don't give a damn about being right. I'll be wrong as I used to hate Evan Fournier, bro. I hated him being on the court. I hated him playing over Quentin Grimes and Emmanuel quickly. I was right, but whatever. Had I been wrong and Evan Fournier went on a 40-point per game heater that led us to a championship, I would have got a jersey. I don't need to be right. I just want the Knicks to win. Like some people are bigger fans of themselves than they are of the Knicks. I love myself, but it pales in comparison to my fanhood of the Knicks in this regard. Like I don't need to be, oh yeah, Shaun. Like now, don't get me wrong, I love being right, but I don't need to be like when it comes to that.
Well, you hit on a lot of good points there. When I go back and watch this episode, I might have to, highlight that and chop that up and take notes on it. But I tell people this all the time. I'm going to be wrong. It's happened a lot. I go back just as I was as a player, like, yo, I'm going to go and watch the games again. I'm going to take the notes. I'm going to try to get better. There have been people that texted me things that I'm like, no, you're out of your mind. There's no way that's true. And then they've proved to be correct over time. And, I have to come here and I'll take the accountability and own up to it and say, hey, this is my life. I love it. I love hoops. I love talking about it. But there are definitely going to be times where I was dead wrong on things. But you say people drag their narratives, they move the goalposts, and they care so much about being right that it does make it hard to have good, honest basketball discussions. What I wanted to touch on with the three scenario is I believe it changes. This has always been my thought. There's different timing on it, different personnel. If you trust someone enough, and remember the Maxi situation that they got burned in that one time where he came up and hit the logo three. But I could respect your perspective in let someone make a tough shot. And then if someone makes a tough shot, the hindsight is, well, we should have fouled. If you as a defender want to say, I want to live with that, there are analytic guys that crunch this stuff. They're like, hey, this is the amount of times this would happen versus what this would happen. The thing that scares me about the Knicks, and I hope it changed this year, is some of the clutch free throw shooting wasn't good last year. If you have a team, and listen, the Knicks, they shot a good, if you look back, the numbers are probably decent, the free throw numbers. But in clutch spots outside of Brunson on the line, you're scared?
I think in game one, and we're further away from it, and I've suppressed it. So, but I believe we shot under 70% from the free throw line. So I did not understand where we were playing the free throw game because literally mathematically that does not favor us right now. We're shooting a poor percentage from the line. Like so, and what happened? He went to the free throw line, he missed one, and now you're in a worse scenario. And I think that fouling up three makes sense. The only time I find it to be like plausible is like with 5 seconds or less. When we fouled him with 14 seconds, all you did was flip possession, and now you're down. You have a point less on your lead. Only a second went off the clock.
Mm.
That doesn't seem productive to me. That's you know, Nas has a saying, or not like there's this. I don't even know what song it is to be honest, but I live by it. It's cool to love to win, but it's better to hate to lose. And so there's all these analytics like in football when they're like, oh yeah, go for two.
Mm.
And then like, I could be down 8 and I could have the opportunity to, score and go for two, or I could miss this and be down 9 and the game is kind of over. Like I don't understand when people put themselves in a position because it's like when you're up by gladly, not so gladly because nothing changed about it. Tyrese's foot was on the line, but when Aaron Neesmith first caught that ball, there was no scenario in which we could have lost the game. We could have, unless we fouled him on 3. We could have only gone to overtime. Once it's now a 2-point game, you've put yourself in a position where you can lose based on what you did. You decided to play the foul game and put yourself in a position to lose. I just don't believe in putting myself closer to losing.
Listen, if you have 3 guys on the court, they're going to shoot it 90% from the line. It makes you feel a little bit better about that situation. So I can understand the perspective. And at this professional level, you expect the free throws go in. As someone that coached high school in the past, I would never do it because our best free throw shooter and was like 65 or 70%. So I would rather someone chuck a 3 up and it go in than us get, like you said, someone closer to the game. But I do want to ask you a couple more Nick related questions before we go. And you'll definitely have to come back and join me in a few weeks to break down.
Whenever, bro. Whenever. You're my guy. Whenever.
Down more of this stuff. But, we've heard his name brought up in some trade rumors. I've been somebody that's been adamant about him playing well and how important it is to the success of the group. What are your expectations of, I don't know who you think I'm going to say right now, but I'm going to Deuce McBride because I really believe that in order for the Knicks to get to where they want to go, they could listen. If they want to deal him for another backup point guard, there's a scenario where that could happen. It's possible. But his first 20 games, I want to see a version of him that gets me excited about watching him play for the rest of the year.
I don't, and granted, excuse me, I would like to preface what I'm saying by saying I know nothing. I'm not tapped in. I'm not a reporter. I've even kind of been, so I don't even know certain reports. I kind of tapped out of most things.
Right.
I do not believe Deuce McBride is anywhere close to getting traded. Like people were putting up reports that they might trade him so they can keep Shaman or Brogdon. That doesn't even make sense. Like that literally doesn't even make any sense. And then I saw people saying, "Oh, we might trade Deuce so that we can get somebody who can a shooter." And I'm just like, Deuce is the shooter, like, and he also plays defense, and he's on probably at least top 5. Only because I don't know everybody's books as well. There are not 5 contracts in the NBA better than Deuce McBride right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's just not. There's no way. So it's like doesn't make any sense. And the continuity, what he does for us. Last year going into the season, my homies, the hot hand theory, some of the best basketball minds on the internet. My homies Jeff and XJ, they're amazing. They're so smart. They're like, they have the basketball knowledge, but also like the statistical and analytics knowledge. I go off vibes. Like I look at it, it looks like I like it. Cool. I'll guess somebody's shot percentage just based on how I feel when they're shooting. But they know every single number and every single stat down. It's something I want to be better at, honestly. But they were saying that Deuce should have been the starter last year instead of Josh. I love Josh. I saw the value of Josh being in the starting lineup, the Swiss Army knife kind of thing, and he had his best season last year. But like at the same time, I saw a lot, especially in the playoffs, what they were talking about. Like a lot of their talking points and like the way he spaced the floor, like the true spacing and all that stuff. Like the on-off numbers with Deuce, the lineups, some of our best lineups, most of our best lineups include Deuce McBride. So it's just like Deuce is super valuable, and not for whatever reason, his basketball is his job, and that's who he is. But like his bag looks different this year. Like he's, shooting step back fadeaways out of the post and, turning and pivoting in the lane and shooting floaters off. And I'm like, oh, these are things you weren't doing before. Deuce gets way better every year. There was a point where Deuce was not a good 3-point shooter in the NBA. Like he wasn't out of his confidence, whatever. And now when it gets kicked out to Deuce, like I said, I'm a vibes guy. I feel like it's going in. And if he misses and it gets kicked back out, I feel like it has to go in this time. He's not going to miss again.
The crowd.
And he has some nights where they don't drop, but his jumper, his defense, his energy. I think Deuce is huge for this team.
Mhm. Well, the crowd certainly does too. He's got the great
Dude.
that's a great thing too. I love that. But yeah, you nailed it. You're gonna find few people that like Hart as much as I do. I speak about his intangibles a lot. I defended him when people were coming at him in the postseason last year, saying he's not a starting caliber player on a championship team. But for this current Knicks roster, I think anybody that now argues that he should be in the starting lineup might just be his family members at this point. Like and again, this is coming from somebody that really likes Josh Hart, understands his value right now, playing 25 minutes a game, though, off the bench, where he could be at a higher energy level, running into the crowd, doing all the things he does. Listen, he had the most triple doubles in Knicks history last season. So it wasn't like he was out there not doing anything. Josh Hart deserves his flowers. However, with the double big with Mitch and what else this team has needs off the bench and what he offers, it just seems now like the logical thing to do. And they will. We know the direction that this is trending, and hopefully both those guys are healthy. I know they're managing Mitch now, and Hart's got the back from Abu Dhabi, but I think that'll be where he truly thrives and where he was meant to be. That's not to say he won't close games, Shaun. There'll be games that Josh Hart's in the game at the end. But his best role is to be a sixth, seventh, eighth guy on the team.
Yeah, I love Josh. And coming into the season, everybody was like, "Oh, kind of going back and forth." And I was on, I think I was with Randy Cruz and Denny Blanco earlier in the summer, and they were like, "Oh, who do you want the starting lineup to be?" And I was just like, honestly, I don't have a want to be for the starting lineup. Like Mike Brown, I'm not in there, so it's just like whatever Mike Brown sees and decides he's gonna do is what I'm with. So it's like if he feels like the best thing is Josh, cool, I'm with it. If he feels like the best thing is Mitch, cool, I'm with it. I'm ready to go. But yeah, like and what I don't like what people do, because like you said, people were talking about him, and Josh had some moments in the Pacers series that weren't the greatest, unfortunately. But like, I don't like when people are revisionist or when they like throw something out. And so like the way that they would speak on him, like in that previous playoff run, in that Sixers series and all that, and before he got hurt in the Pacers series, Josh was probably playing at the level and impact of a top 25 player in the NBA.
Mm.
Like as far as impacting winning, like the things he was doing on a nightly basis for the team, he was really like the second best player after Jalen for real. Like he was hooping, he was going nuts.
Yeah.
And so like, he's hit some of the biggest shots in Knicks history. Like the shot against Cleveland in game 1,
Mm.
the shot against Philly in game 6.
Mhm.
Like so it's just like people then like how can you take that same person and say, oh well, they're not cut out? They've already done it. You've seen him do it, and it's not like he's lost the ability. Like so, yeah. I don't know now. What we do need from Josh is for Josh to shoot with confidence.
I was just gonna say it.
That's literally it. As far as the effort, everything he does, like even some of the the inevitable boneheaded turnover that's going to happen, you take those things. Like that's part of the Josh Hart experience. It's whatever. I don't care. The only thing that bothers me about Josh is when he won't shoot. Not even when he misses. It's when he won't shoot. Like we need you to shoot, bro. Like if you, because honestly, like Josh, even when he's kind of slumping, is still like 35, 34%. So it's just like Josh is a capable 3-point shooter. So yeah, just shoot the ball. I think because when he doesn't shoot the ball, that kind of like shrinks. When teams can play him like he's not going to shoot, it hurts us. So I think that as long as whether he's out there as a starter, whether he's closing, whether he's playing 25 minutes, whether he's playing 35 minutes, I just need him to shoot with confidence on the floor. That's literally my only request.
Be a threat. I'm not going to tell Josh Hart how to play basketball. He knows how to do it much better than I do. So I'm not gonna give him advice in that regard. But I've even tagged him on it and said things on social media. I'm like, when you look at the basket, we're so much more formidable. It's just, I think sometimes, and this is just from, third person perspective on the outside looking in. There are times where he's shooting it and ripping it, right? Like in no hesitation. I remember when PJ Tucker got here last year, and he was like yelling at Hart, like just to be confident and then
Hmm.
don't get in your head too much and don't short arm your jumper. And then he had a couple games where he was shooting it well. And you mentioned some of the big shots, that he's made in the postseason. He's capable. He is not a great shooter by any means, but he's certainly not a bad one. And if he's left open in the NBA, we're going to expect him to put that thing up, and his teammates do as well. And then he'll say, "Oh, people are yelling at me." He said this on the podcast, and that means less looks for Brunson and Cat. Listen, Brunson being doubled or Cat on a contested look from 30 is not the same as Josh Hart wide open. You are wide open, my friend. Teams are going to put pressure on all different types of guys, and if you are wide open, the ball needs to go up.
And it's funny because when he said that, it's like, and I know this is probably just, I don't know. There's weird things. My coach said something one time in high school that was one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. And so I know that everybody sees basketball differently. But like, if you get that open shot and you don't shoot it, if we don't score on this possession, that's almost like a turnover to me.
Mm.
Like you didn't take the best shot that we created. So when he says, "Oh yeah, taking shots away from Jalen," no, 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 no. As an offense, we are trying to create the best shot. This is the best shot we got in this possession, and you're not taking it. That's kind of a turnover. One time in high school, my coach, my senior year, crazy because he's like, that's story for another day. But my high school coach, my senior year, once said to me, he was like, I had 15 points and 7 assists, like 6 rebounds, and then he said that because I had 3 turnovers, I only had 4 assists, and
Mm.
I was like, well, that's not really how that works. Like that's not really how that works. Like that's he was just really he was always trying to pile on me and everything. But yeah, I was like that's not how that works. But so I hope that I don't sound like that when I say that when you don't take the best shot we create, it's kind of a turnover. I'm open to that being something people don't agree with, but that's how I feel.
Well, listen, we really could go. I could talk to you about basketball, the Knicks. I mean, we could open up a bunch of other topics, go on for hours, but however, we are time limited. I'm asking the Knicks to dominate at home this year. That's what I'm asking them to do. 23 wins, 27 wins, 27 wins at the Garden the last 3 seasons. I want my 34-7 year at MSG, something along those lines. I want this to be a place that people come in and are afraid to play. That's where the guard, because if you remember, recall correctly, the last three postseasons have ended with the Knicks having home court in the series they lost.
Oh, hey, turn this up, man.
Miami, Indiana twice. The Knicks did not lose or get eliminated by a team that was a higher seed than them. I want the Garden to be the Garden again. And listen, it's loud. It's a great place to be. I'm going to my first game in November. I can't wait. However, too often people are comfortable coming in here and it needs to stop. The Bulls can't come in and win a game at the Garden this year. I don't want to see it. I,
No.
if the Thunder come in and get one, tip your cap. That's the okay. Listen, you don't want it to happen. You could live with it. The days of these 35 to 40 win teams winning games at MSG have to be numbered. It's that simple.
I love this. Matter of fact, so I have a goal for them this year. Well, I have a goal for individual player this year that I have for him every year, and I really hope he does it this year. And it's the only thing he does that upsets me because I feel like he's very unserious at the free throw line. But I feel like that's a second goal that we can set for the team. Like you say there, I'm even for the sake of Pat, I'm going to say 33 wins at home this year.
Yeah,
We need 33 wins at home this year.
I
And
like
I need Jalen to be 50, 40, 90.
Oof.
I need it. He's capable of it. I know that it's a lot to ask for.
No, the
He's
90s
capable of
hard.
it.
The 90s the hardest part of that because I remember you saying that on Twitter and I looked. 50 he could definitely do. 40 he's done many times. His best year at the line is 84. So if he's gonna focus in on the line and make 90% of his free throws, the other part, I'm not gonna say it's easy, but the other part is very doable. He just hasn't
Mm-hmm.
been the 90 at the line guy yet, which if he is, that'll bode very well for us.
And last year he shot 82 at the line. I just don't think. And granted, I love Jalen Brunson. He's my favorite player, literally ever. He changed my life.
Mm.
This is not in any way a slight toward him. It's just like a challenge for him. You can't. He shouldn't shoot 82% from the line. Like when you look at the people who shoot 82% from the line, Jalen Brunson doesn't belong there. Like Jalen Brunson should be like 87 to 90. If we're going from 54 to 90 and you get 87, I can live with that. If we're going 54 to 90 and you get 82, 81, I'm like, I need you to be better at the line. So I need Jalen to be better at the line. I know that Jalen needs Jalen to be better at the line. And that's something that, that's my challenge to him. I want 54, 80, 90. I would love a double double, but whatever that happens in the flow of the game, whatever's supposed to happen, whatever. But 50, 40, 90 would mean a lot to me. I would love that because just
Well,
as a fan who wants to be able to talk trash.
well, he knows who you are at this point, Shaun, so he might actually see this.
It's a crazy concept. It's a
He,
crazy concept.
yeah, I wish I could do that dunk you did. But listen, man,
Yeah.
I wish you a great season of content creating. We're going to see each other at the Garden. We'll stay in touch. Like I said, I would love for you to be, a guy that comes on here, and I'm sure that the fans of this program will appreciate your feedback on what's going on this season. Hop on a live, that I'm doing IG, whatever you want to do. But really, truly appreciate this and your vibes and your energy. It is inspiring to me. I speak positively about a lot of people, but we are both trying to do similar things, and it means a lot that you took your time today. And we're getting ready. We're revved up. It's going to be like Christmas morning on Wednesday. I don't know if I'll be able to sleep. It's that kind of excitement for our Knicks. So, Shaun, you're the best, man.
Hey, thank you for having me, bro. Truly an honor to be here. Love and appreciate you. And anytime, like as long as I'm not doing a show myself, if I'm available to you.
Thank you so much, man. Have a great night, everyone.